By now, you're familiar with this statement. This statement raises or throws an error. This error will be a level 16, and the error message is going to say, "You're bad." Let's run this and see what happens. There we go, it's a level 16 error, and the message is, "You're bad." Is that the only way to raise a specific error? Watch this. You could simply throw message number 50,000, "You're bad," and then put a 1 for the state. Run that, and it says, "You're bad." Here's a try-catch block, and we learned that if you put a statement inside the try that throws an error, it, instead of throwing the error up to you, it throws it over to the catch block, and the catch block has the option of doing something other than raising the error. Let's put an insert statement into the pay rates table that will violate the primary key, because we're going to insert the pay for employee 1, but employee 1 already has some pay. So let's see how that error pans out. Let's say insert into the pay rates table all of these fields, and let's put in the values. Employee ID 1 makes $50,000 a year. They don't make any monthly salary or hourly salary, and their selector is 1. Their estimate is $50,000 a year, and currently they don't have any bonus. Pretty sure this is not going to work, but let's run this individually. Yep, it says violation of primary key. Well, what would happen if it ran successfully? If it ran successfully, we would run everything in the try block, including this print statement that says after first insert. So if it worked, we'd see rows completed successfully and then after first insert. What are we going to do in the catch? Well, we're not going to really throw an error. We're just going to catch it and say, print, what is the error? Okay, let's run this. Notice all it says is 0 rows affected because we haven't affected any, and it says, what is the error? Well, what is the error? Well, let's print the error by saying print error underscore message paren. Run this. What is the error? Violation of primary key. It looks like the same error we got here, except this shows it in red, and this just shows it informationally. What if we want the catch to actually throw the error? In other words, we want this statement to come out of the catch as an actual error. We could do a raise error, couldn't we? Or this is actually going to be a little bit easier. What we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this print statement, and we've got to put a semicolon after this last statement and say THROW. Run that, and there we go. This is one way where the catch can actually re-raise the error that it got from the try. Look at this query of the employee table and look at employee number 20 and employee number 21. They're active employees with us, but we don't know what they get paid. The reason is there is no employee 20 or 21 in the pay rates table. Watch. Yep, it ends at 19. So we're probably going to want to insert this, and what we're going to do is create a stored procedure to pass it the employee ID and pass it the yearly salary. It will insert that for us. Now, it's possible somebody would accidentally try to insert an employee that exists. It's also possible that somebody will try to insert an employee that doesn't yet exist in this table, but should. So there's a chance for error, but there's a chance for good. Let's put a go here, so our next DDL statement runs just fine. We're going to type create proc, insert yearly pay, and we want to know what employee ID that is, which is an int. And we want to know what their yearly salary is, which is a money. Then say as and go. Now, we're going to use structured error handling. So let's put a begin try, end try, and that will be our insert statement. And in case something goes wrong, we're going to do begin catch and end catch. Okay, so far so good. Let's start off with our try. Let's make an insert into statement that inserts to the DBO pay rates table all of the fields, and we're going to insert the following values: the employee ID that they passed in, the yearly salary, and since this is a yearly salaried store procedure, there's no need to put anything in for the month pay or the hourly pay. The selector is 1, and then the yearly salary will be their yearly estimator. And they're going to start off with 0 bonus. This looks pretty good. Should we create it? Well, we're going to use the structured error handling with transactions. What's meant by that? Well, let's put a begin tran just inside of the try, and if it gets to the end of the insert statement successfully, well then let's commit the transaction. Now what are we going to put in the catch? Now the catch means the insert did not run quite right, so we're going to roll that back. Okay, let's create this stored procedure. Commands completed successfully. Great. Let's call on this stored procedure with execute insert yearly pay for employee 20, and we're going to give him $50,000 a year. Let's run this stored procedure. One row is affected. Wow, that means that this employee is probably in the pay rates table. Yep, employee 20 is right there, earning $50,000 a year. Excellent. Once an employee has a pay, they are considered active with our company. Let's update that employee to be active. So let's type update employee set status equals active, where emp ID equals 20. Let's run that. One row affected. Now let's go back to our query and let's look at the select star from pay rates. There we go. No change there. It's the employee table that got affected. This now says active. So here's the process that we're going to follow in the next part of this section, and that is when we insert a pay for an employee in the pay rates table, the corresponding record in the employee table should be tagged as active. We did that in 2 steps here. To put an employee's pay in, we went through 2 steps. We executed the insert yearly pay stored procedure, which updated the pay rates table. And then we directly updated the employee table. A lot of companies will have a policy where you're not supposed to directly update a table. Maybe they want another stored procedure to update the employee table. So let's create that. Type create proc make yearly employee pay. We'll take the @empID variable as an integer, and we'll take the @YR salary, which is a money data type. Now we'll say as and then go. Now let's use structured error handling with a try block and a catch block. What are we going to do in the try? We're going to make an update. Let's go ahead and begin the transaction. Let's update the employee, and let's set the status to be equal to active, where the employee ID is equal to whatever employee ID was passed into the stored procedure. So we use the variable @empID. Now, why did I ask for the @YR salary variable if we're not using it? Because this stored procedure is going to call another stored procedure. We're going to nest it. We're going to type execute insert yearly pay, and we're going to pass in the @empID variable and the @YR salary variable. And then we'll commit the transaction. So if all goes well and these 2 statements run, it'll commit the transaction. So what happens if something goes wrong in here? Well, then we're going to want to roll back the transaction, because maybe the update statement will work and the execute stored procedure statement will fail. Let's take some extra time to even show the error message if we happen to get one. Okay, let's run this statement. Commands completed successfully. Let's try it out in a very good situation, an ideal situation where we're going to insert an employee we don't already have that we need. Let's execute make yearly employee pay, and let's pass in employee number 21, and they get $51,000 per year. Let's run this. It says 1 row affected twice. That's good. Well, now let's look at what we see for the employee in the employee table and the employee in the pay rates table. Right over here we have a query from the employee table. Who is set to active? So that worked. And then in the pay rates, we see employee 21 is set to $51,000. Well, this worked. We called on the make yearly employee pay stored procedure, which updated to active, and then it called the insert yearly pay stored procedure, and it updated both tables. So what happens if we get a not-so-perfect situation where we call on the make yearly employee pay stored procedure and we pass employee 1 at $91,000 a year? Now remember, employee 1 already exists. So we can still update the table to active, but we can't insert employee ID twice in the pay rates table. So since the second statement fails, the transaction should fail. Here's what it says. It says 1 row affected, and then it says the rollback transaction request has no corresponding begin transaction. That's because this stored procedure that we called is rolling it back, but it's not throwing an error up to this next stored procedure. So right before this is rolled back, let's fail over the calling stored procedure by putting the word throw right here. Let's alter this stored procedure. Let's run it. Commands completed successfully. Now, let's call on it. And now, we just get the message that says, violation of primary key constraint. Time for Lab 2.2, Skill Check 1. Take the add grant amount stored procedure and make sure the catch block rethrows the error. Doing it in this way will mean that no rows will be affected and the error will show up in the message window. Test your work by opening another query window and issuing the following code you see in this figure. Skill Check 2. Take the Add Bonus Point sprock and alter it to use a transaction with structured error handling. The transaction should be started in the try block and committed at the end of the try block. The catch block should roll the transaction back. Throw the following error from the try block if the @empid value is null. Test your code as seen in the figure here.